Broadcasting from Park Avenue West, you're watching WMFD Television, Channel 68.
This program discusses sensitive mental health issues, including suicide. Viewer discretion is advised.
Maybe an hour after we got the message that we lost Danny, Danny's sister said to us, we were all crying, and she says, "What do we do? What do we tell people?" And I'm like, "Baby, we got to tell them the truth. This is nothing that can be hidden, because otherwise the suicide will win."
We're not mental health professionals. This is just something that happened to our family. We direct people other places. And most important of all, I think, don't quit. Keep fighting. Keep living. Things will get better.
Good evening and welcome to Sparking the Conversation. I'm Jeff Heck. This is my wife, Donna, and we're part of 33 Forever. We're so excited to be able to bring you weekly half-hour messages, stories, and resources surrounding mental health topics and challenges. Now, our show's purpose and hope is to provide both information and inspiration, making conversations with mental health the norm.
Ellen Souder is a licensed professional clinical counselor specializing in family counseling at Family Life Counseling and Psychiatric Services. She also serves as Family Life's Director of Clinician Development and Training. With over 20 years of experience, Ellen considers her greatest privilege in life is that of helping families to navigate through their own life's challenges. She and her husband of 42 years have a son, daughter-in-law, and 3 grandsons. Welcome, Ellen.
Thank you.
Gosh, I feel like I know you just from the few times we've been together. You are a very warm and welcoming person. I'm sure the families are nothing but comfortable with you.
Thank you.
Really happy to have you on the show tonight, and we're looking forward to hearing about your topic.
Yes, and what we're doing today, we talk about family counseling, this is part of we've been having a series on different type of mental health topics to find a specialty. You chose family therapy, and how do you know if you are the family that perhaps needs family counseling?
Oh, that's an excellent question, and thank you for the lovely introduction. I think for a lot of families, they don't even realize that they could benefit from family counseling. But if I were to, I think I would probably say there's 4 categories. There's probably more than 4, but I'll start with 4. I think there's 4 different types of circumstances that if a family's experiencing these circumstances, I think they would really benefit from family counseling. And one of those is if you just as a family find that you're having a lot of family conflict. There's just a lot of arguing back and forth, high stress. Life can be very stressful.
Yep.
And so a lot of times, it's almost like it can creep up on you. One day someone in the family maybe is experiencing a problem and the other family members are trying to help them overcome those problems. And as time goes by, it's probably feels like overnight that they're arguing and, having conflict 90% of the time.
And they're doing more to fuel the problem than help it.
Right, but they don't realize that, and I think that's normal. You're trying your best, but sometimes trying isn't enough because you may be using all the wrong tools to try to help that person who's who's kind of started the whole process.
One of the things that I think families have experienced, and I'm sure many families that you come across, is some aspect of trauma in the family unit or to one family member or something.
Absolutely.
Talk about the role that trauma plays in your practice in family counseling.
I think, well, first of all, I think that trauma plays a huge role. And, a lot of times trauma will happen. It's almost like trauma enters into a family system on the backs of one person. Yep. And so a lot of times what the family, and I think this is an error, a mistake on their part, but they kind of think, well, that one person needs to go for counseling. And not realizing that trauma is this systemic entity. In fact, I can remember looking at a study that was done this goes way back to 2008, and it was by the Institute of Medicine. And they did a study on veterans who had experienced trauma and were diagnosed with PTSD. And what they found was that the veterans who were able to recover from their trauma and heal were the ones who experienced that healing within a family system context.
Makes sense.
And so, right, because, I think trauma impacts every single person in the family. It doesn't just impact the person that maybe experienced the traumatic event. Maybe it was, something that happened to them personally, but that impacts every single family member. And I think a lot of times families don't realize that they're the greatest resource for healing. Healing happens inside the home.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that you said to us when we were talking, you talked about the family as an engine.
Right.
And I love that,
Yes.
that metaphor. So talk about that. When you talk about something like that, what do you mean by that in the context of family therapy?
Right. I think what I mean by that is think of it like this. Anytime one person does something within a family system, it automatically and predictably is compensated for by a response. So what one person does, so when I think of an engine, it's like, an engine of a car, and I'm not a mechanic by any means. So if I mess this up royally, forgive me, because all you mechanics out there, maybe plug your ears for a minute. But I think that, what one person does within a family system is going to impact other persons within that family system, and then that's going to draw a response from them. And so if their responses are unhelpful, then it's just going to exacerbate, the problems that the family is experiencing. But if families can learn if they can learn new tools, if, one part of the engine can respond in a more helpful way, then that's going to impact the whole family system. And they're going to be able to heal quicker.
In my head, I'm thinking about spark plugs and pistons firing in
Okay,
a
so
certain
now you're
sequence.
beyond my
Exactly.
my
And you know
limitation.
what? Since you're going to think of spark plugs, we are going to take a break, and we'll be right back with Sparking the Conversation.
Catalyst Life Services, a comprehensive behavioral health organization, has been serving the community for 70 years. Our wide array of wraparound services and our ability to treat the whole person is what sets us apart. It's everything you need in one place: mental health, crisis, detox and addiction services, case management, and peer recovery support. We even offer vocational programming to get you back to work. Catalyst Life Services. Call today and get the help you need.
Need a reason to get up? Try a sausage McMuffin with egg or a bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit. Buy one, get one free. Only on the app. Breakfast. It's on.
Save 11% on all your home improvement needs now at Menards. Keep your home's exterior beautifully protected with Cedar Creek vinyl siding. The low-maintenance siding withstands the elements and comes in 16 colors, ready to install. All 11% off. Let in fresh air with Larson Storm Doors. The Lakeview Split View Storm Door comes equipped with screen-away retractable screens. Choose from over 20 Larson Storm Door styles in stock. All 11% off now at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. It paid for me to be the first person in my family to go to school and graduate debt-free. That education helped me get to the first day at my career, a job that I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and the home loan benefits I got from my service helped me buy my first home. And I take pride knowing I will be the first to respond if my community ever needs me. To learn more, visit nationalguard.com.
Brandon met a girl on a dating app. He finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving.
She must be a keeper.
This program discusses sensitive mental health issues, including suicide. Viewer discretion is advised. And welcome back to Sparking the Conversation. We're here with Ellen Souder from Family Life Counseling here in the Shelby area, right? You're in their Shelby office?
Mansfield
okay,
office.
the Mansfield
Yep.
office. And before we took our first break, you were talking about how do you know if you're a family that needs some counseling services or counseling help when it would benefit you? And you were talking about a couple of circumstances, but I think there may be a couple more that you mentioned to us before.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, sometimes families, I know I talked about family conflict and trauma, and a lot of times those are the obvious reasons. But I think there's another reason that's really important, and that is a lot of, you know, raising teenagers nowadays is not easy.
We can testify to that.
Well, and those beautiful little bundles of joy do not come into homes with a manual. And so I think what happens a lot of times is when, you know, kids grow up, they become teenagers, they become a little more challenging, and sometimes parents can really struggle to find the right tools to manage their teenagers' behaviors, and especially in today's world because there's so many influences out there. And so I think, you know, for a family or for a set of parents or a single parent who's really struggling to find the right tool to manage their child, their teenagers' behaviors, I think those really would benefit from family counseling, because sometimes those are the people who maybe experience a lot of shame, a lot of blame, you know, a lot of self-recrimination, or maybe they've got, you know, other people in their world who are saying, you know, well, you ought to do this or you ought to do that. And so when those circumstances happen, I think sometimes people can tend to kind of put up a protective shield. I call that circling the wagons. But unfortunately, when you circle the wagons, it really doesn't help to move beyond the status quo. So, you know, I think that, you know, if there are families out there that are really struggling in that area, I think seeking family counseling would be really helpful.
Well, and there's, you know, our whole point of sparking the conversation is to talk about things that a lot of people don't talk about. And that, you know, to erase the stigma, because there is none. You know, we get help if, you know, if the family car isn't working, the dog, and we all want to go to the vet with the dog to make sure that, you know, he's okay. And why don't we think more of that? I mean, I go back to our life, we could have all benefited from that. And it just, I just love this topic. It's tremendous that I hope it does open people's eyes and make us all feel that, you know, this is okay, this is normal, and we do need tools. Can you tell me, just even with that, what tools would you give someone, let's say in that situation? It's just I don't know, I just wonder, I mean, I bet you can just give a nugget right now to help people.
I think one of the biggest things that I really want to empower parents and families is to, first of all, realize that they're their greatest resource. You know, they're the experts of their lives. They're the experts of themselves and of one another. And I think a lot of times families come in where they don't know how to communicate with one another in a helpful way any longer. You know, when stress gets high, we tend to, you know, maybe engage in yelling, or as parents, maybe we lecture or we nag, thinking that that's going to help our children to somehow magically behave, but it doesn't work. And so helping them to learn something that I call button busters. And so button busters is just—
I love these terms.
It's just, it's kind of a funny name, but it's really to help them learn how to respond in a helpful way when their buttons get pushed. Because we all get our buttons pushed,
especially
right?
by our family members.
Exactly, because our family members know exactly which buttons to push. Whether it's, you know, a child knows exactly which button to push on their parent to try to get them to back down. A spouse knows exactly which button to push on their partner, you know, when they're frustrated and aggravated. And so educating families on what the common buttons are that we push on one another, and to normalize it. You know, because I think normalizing it is really important for families to realize that, you know, they're not these totally messed up people.
There's no blame, there's no shame.
There's no blame, no shame. They're trying to do the best they can with the tools they have.
One of the things that you talked about was helping families learn how to land. You talked about, as we were preparing for the show, and you said that, and I like that thought process. So maybe you can talk about that real quick too.
Yes, well, and I think where that thought came from in my head, which sometimes I get some crazy metaphors in there, but I was just kind of thinking families are like an airplane, you know, that they're circling the runway and they're kind of stuck in that holding pattern and they don't really know how to land. And that's one of the things that I try to do in my family therapy is to help them figure out how to land. In other words, help them figure out how to reclaim the family that they dream of. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's the family that they once had and they've somehow lost along the way of life stressors, or maybe it's a family that they never had because of their own generational experiences that maybe weren't what they wish they had been, but helping them to kind of claim that for their own. That's kind of what I mean by landing. Yeah. Now, the process of landing is a little more complicated.
Well, we're going to need to take a break. So when we get back, we'll talk about the process of landing, talk about some stories of hope. Thank you for being with us, and we'll be back shortly.
The need for mental health and addiction services is rising. Life is getting harder. Our day-to-day living situation can be difficult to handle at times, and the pandemic certainly is not helping. Catalyst Life Services has a mental health and addiction urgent care available for all ages. Get the care you need when you need it and without an appointment. If you're facing the challenges of addiction or mental illness, know you can find help at Catalyst Urgent Care. It's the help you need when you need it the most.
This summer, we celebrate the 61st season of racing at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. The legendary road course showcases the premier motorsports events in North America. June features Mid-Ohio's longest-running event, the Vintage Grand Prix, this year featuring the British Car Showdown. On 4th of July weekend, Mid-Ohio hosts the Honda Indy 200, presented by the all-new 2023 Civic Type R. July 8th and 9th brings the O'Reilly Auto Parts 150, featuring the thrilling debut of the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series to Mid-Ohio. And finally, AMA Vintage Motorcycle Days wraps up a full slate of racing for the 2022 season. Welcoming fans back with no restrictions, make Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course a part of your summer. Bring the family. Kids 12 and under are free. Steam Corners Road, Lexington, Ohio. Tickets at midohio.com. That's midohio.com.
Are you worried about staying dry for your summer event? Arise Tents and Events caters to the most important events your family will celebrate. Graduation parties, weddings, or backyard barbecues. They have over 100 tents to choose from, along with tables, chairs, linens, and accessories. A family-owned business whose goal is to help you build a memorable event.
For more information, visit AriseTentsAndEvents.com or call 330-852-7000 in Sugar Creek.
Welcome back to Sparking the Conversation. We're here again with Ellen Souder, and we were talking about landing the plane of the family conflict, and you were using that analogy, I thought, really aptly. So we better get the plane down before we stop for the night.
All right. Okay, well, everything I say may not quite fit with our analogy of landing a plane, but I do think it does with regards to families being stuck. And when I think of landing a plane or helping a family get unstuck, I really think of it as 3 phases. And the first phase is what I call the engagement phase. And that really just entails helping families to actually recognize several key truths. One of those is that they're not alone. Because I think so often when anyone experiences stressors in their life, trauma, conflict, whatever that stress is, it's easy to think that you're the only one who's experiencing this. And in some ways, that can be very unhelpful because it also helps you to put up shields. Yes. And so helping them to understand that they're not alone, but also helping them to understand that they're the experts of their lives. They have the efficacy, they have the capacity to reclaim their family. That's really the first step in landing a family successfully. And then after that, I think it's really helping them to uncover what the barriers are that have kept them stuck. And I call those barriers unhealthy undercurrents. A lot of times people at first just see the symptoms. Like if I had a cold, how would you know I had a cold? You'd see me coughing, sneezing, runny nose.
Exactly.
But what you wouldn't see is the virus, what's actually causing that cold. And I think in families, they have a virus, if you will, but the only way you can really figure out what that virus is to kind of go beneath the surface.
Correct.
And get down to the root level. Because if all you do is focus on symptoms, it's like pulling a weed, right? I'm throwing metaphors out right and left, but it is like pulling a weed. It just grows back.
Yes.
But if you get beneath the surface of the soil and help the families discover for themselves what the unhealthy undercurrents are, think of an undercurrent as like a pattern of interaction that a family is engaged in. And we all kind of get in those ruts of engaging with one another in certain ways.
Yeah.
And if those ways are keeping you stuck, then they're not helpful. And so helping families figure out what's the unhelpful pattern, what are the barriers, from then it's just an easy segue to figure out and co-create together the pathway to resolve those barriers.
That is incredible. A great visual with that. In closing, can you give us a story of hope, something on the subject of everything that you've just shared with us?
Yes. I always think of two particular families that I've worked with through the years. One was a grandmother and a mother, and they had a son. And they were stuck in a lot of bitterness and resentment because of trauma that the boy had experienced. And, a lot of times when a child experiences trauma, the parents have a lot of conflicting emotions as it relates to their child. This particular family, one of the barriers that was keeping them stuck was guilt. And so they had a lot of guilt, which then caused them to kind of overcompensate by not being consistent in their parenting of the child. And over time, kind of like that parental hierarchy just started to kind of topple a little bit. And so that family was able to recognize the things that kept them stuck and to see the healing that came out of that, where the mother, the grandmother, and the child were able to come together and heal, not only from the trauma, but from then the subsequent kind of intrafamilial trauma that they were inflicting on one another. To see that healing was just amazing.
They actually pulled that plant out by the roots.
They were able to pull it out by the roots. That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
One of the things I think is so helpful for what we've talked about tonight is that this is a conversation that every single family, I hope families are listening, every single family can recognize some things in themselves, in their own families, their relationships, and hopefully they've gotten something wonderful out of it. So Ellen, we really want to thank you for being with us tonight and sharing about family therapy. We just scratched the surface, but it's been a great conversation, and we appreciate you being here and sharing your expertise with us and our audience tonight.
Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
We'll be back in just a few minutes with our memory moment. Yep, right here on Sparking the Conversation. If you've been injured, whether personal injury, medical malpractice, or wrongful death, you are not alone.
And you definitely don't have to fight alone. While you focus on recovery, let the Heck Law offices focus on your case.
With over 45 years of combined legal experience, we understand your situation and the entire overwhelming legal process.
With an injury you're already handling too much, let our team be your advocate.
I'm Jeff Heck.
And I'm Jeff Stifler.
We're Mansfield's Injury Lawyers. Call us today or visit us at hecklawoffices.com.
I wish I could go back in time.
But if love could have saved you, you would have lived forever.
If he only knew how many lives he had touched and how deeply his loss would be felt.
If only he had accepted help.
Maybe he would have stayed.
I am so glad someone reminded me that I'm worth it and will always be worth it.
I'm glad that I have people now
that support what I want to do in my dream of helping other people.
Celebrate summer with the Lazy Boy 4th of July sale on now at Nichols Furniture. Enjoy these star-spangled savings on your favorite Lazy Boy styles. Recliners from $4.99 plus sofas from $9.99. From cozy recliners to spacious sofas, fill your life with the comfort and quality only Lazy Boy can deliver. Don't miss these special limited time savings. The Lazy Boy 4th of July sale at Nichols Furniture in Mansfield and Marion.
Welcome back to Sparking the Conversation. This is the part of the program we call the Memory Moment. And Donna had a very special thing that happened last week, and she thought it would be perfect to share for the Memory Moment. So why don't you tell our audience about it?
We haven't really done a memory moment for the past couple of episodes, so this was really, we were talking today thinking, what could we do? And last week, I have a dear friend who also lost her son, and we just talked about comforting things, and you give people different gifts and different cards and memories, and I had said something to her, and again, this is personal. Jeff and I, what we're sharing now isn't necessarily anything with 33 Forever because it's not a religious organization. It's just an organization created to help people. And my dear friend Sandy gave me this, and I'm telling you, it totally helped me. She asked me to send her a picture, my favorite picture of Danny. Mm-hmm. And I did. And then she mailed it off and came back with this gorgeous 8x10 I can set anywhere. And it's just so stinking comforting and peaceful. And those of you out there who have lost people, there are different things that bring you comfort, whether it's cardinals and butterflies, which those help too. But this is just a visual that I just need when my mind goes where it's not supposed to.
Yep. So again, we get these wonderful memories of Danny all the time. And again, this is just the latest one, and we wanted to share it with you because it was special to us. And again, it's part of our faith. We understand our audience has all different kinds of beliefs and faiths, and that's wonderful. This is just our personal thing. But we appreciate you letting us share that tonight, and it's just very special for us.
And if you have anybody that has gone through anything that you would like to get on our show, send us the information and we will contact them if you can't, or have them contact us at 33forever.life on our contact page, on our website, Instagram, WMFD. You just get a message out and we'll find it.
And we'd love to hear those stories. Those stories are really what help other people as they hear the conversations, so then we can spark more conversations. So thanks for being with us tonight. We will see you next week with another great guest.